Welcome back to Kiesel News, everybody. To start today off, we have official confirmation that the Elden Ring DLC, Shadow of the Entry, has sold 5 million copies already. And that's just in the first 3 days. It seems like people have been talking about this for like 3 weeks, so imagine how many copies it's sold now. It took the Danganronpa series like 10 years to sell 5 million units, and this DLC just sells it in 3 days. What the hell? And that's with it being a single DLC too. The Danganronpa series is the entire series combined. Like, holy fuck. I guess this shows that the release model of how you release a game or its extra content doesn't really matter. As long as the game already sold like hotcakes, anything related to it will also sell like hotcakes. Including an Elden Ring movie, which there is in fact interest in. Now, to be honest, I would actually be down for this, as everybody raves about, oh, Elden Ring, it has so much lore, but I haven't really followed up on any of it, and I think having it presented in a movie would be the best way for me to personally experience it, and it would also give them the opportunity to put more emphasis on it as well. They do say that a very strong partner would have to come into play for the movie to be made, so I wonder who they have in mind for potentially developing this movie. I don't really know in terms of studios if there's anyone in particular I'd like to see, but I don't know. I just feel like Spike Lee may be able to do Elden Ring justice a little bit. I mean, he is known for adaptations of action-heavy films, right? And I think he could do Elden Ring's combat pretty well. If they want to get someone that is of Asian persuasion, I would suggest some of the cast members or crew members from Shogun be involved, just going off of recent memory. Steam users have spent $19 billion on games that they've never played before. Now, this I don't understand. I know Steam is notorious for having a huge backlog, like having games that are constantly in your backlog, and I do this a lot with games too, where I buy them, play them for maybe an hour or two, and then never really pick them up again. A recent example is the recent South Park Snow Day game, but that's really because it wasn't what I expected, and I just wanted to play it with my friends, and I rarely have my friends over. But, in terms of not playing a game at all that you bought, that has never made any sense to me. I always look into a game carefully before I buy it, especially since there's so many times where you could just watch a streamer or a YouTuber play a game if you are... It's typically what I do if I'm interested in the game's story but not the gameplay. But games that I'm interested in both, I buy and I play. I don't understand people who willingly spend money on games and just don't play them a single bit. Maybe this is part of the reason why Valve is worth so much as a company. Damn. Speaking of Valve and Steam, it appears that fixed Team Fortress 2 is finally working a little bit again, as bot hosters are being banned by Valve. Now, I know Valve is slow at making games. I mean, they never count to 3 with any of their series, right? But I don't know why they're acting so slow with this. Like, the fixed Team Fortress 2 thing was weeks ago. You could have avoided all of the potential backlash if you just did this earlier. I'm glad that it's happening now, but, you know. Despite how I don't think Valve should have taken this long, I do hope that them finally taking action means the game's ratings will lift back up again, as I don't think the game deserves overly negative ratings, especially since overall it's had a very positive legacy. That shouldn't be entirely washed away just from a few incidents. For a bit of positive news, Mr. Beast has visited a little girl in the hospital after being requested, who was in palliative care. Now, I think this is incredibly sweet of Mr. Jimmy Beast here. Obviously, I mean, who wouldn't think it was? But it just shows how much he cares about his fans, despite having an immensely busy schedule. Now, I normally wouldn't report on something like this, as there's not much else to say, right? It's just Mr. Beast being a nice guy. What's new? But due to it being Jacksfilm's 18-year anniversary on YouTube, I wanted to take the opportunity to shit on Sniper Wolf, and this is the perfect opportunity to, as she failed a couple years ago, to simply FaceTime a terminally ill girl in the hospital. Like, it would have took you no time at all to just give her a quick little call, like 10 minutes, and just talk to her about some shit. I mean, she's generous enough to watch your dog shit content. I think the most you could do is give her a few minutes of your time. But everybody already talked about this years ago when it happened. I just wanted to compare the two situations, because Sniper Wolf argued that she was really busy, and that's why she couldn't do it. But Mr. Beast is a guy who is infinitely busier. The dude has more on his plate than most, like, full-on celebrities, and he still took the time to do this. In a small bit of news, Donald Glover's new film, Bando Stone and the New World, is releasing tonight, and there's been basically no marketing for this thing. Like, it has a website, but you have to sign up for updates, and are people really going to want to do that? Like, I've tried to go to the website, and it doesn't have any information if you don't sign up. I also think it was a bad move to title the film the exact title of the album that he made for it, which, yes, it is cool that he made the entire soundtrack for the film. But it makes information on the actual film difficult to locate. I had to scroll for like 5 minutes to find anything related to the film, as everyone's just talking about the album. I think he could have just called the album The New World, you know? I just feel like that would have fixed everything up. Overall, very trivial though. I'm sure the movie will still see a decent amount of success just for having Donald Glover in it. Next up, we have 4 more roles being cast in One Piece Season 2. To start, we have Callum Kerr. He bears a clear resemblance to Smoker, at least in terms of their facial expressions in the photo that they used. Also, I'm not familiar with One Piece that much. There's really a character named Smoker that's fucking awesome. But he is also an actor, much like the ones yesterday, who have not appeared in much, according to their filmography. I mean, I saw Monarch on there, but it's not the Godzilla project. It's an entirely separate one, separate from the whole MonsterVerse. So yeah, he really has nothing to go off of. As for Julia Rewald, she definitely resembles the character that she plays. I can see that a mile away. But her entire filmography is just the Fear Street movies, so I don't know how that'll play into One Piece at all. Rob Coletti, the only thing that I can find for him on his filmography is The Many Saints of Newark, the Sopranos spin-off, which does seem pretty good. but I think he is the actor that I'm most worried about in terms of their actual physical portrayal, but that could just be because Wapol is just so far from an average human picture that it's hard to judge in comparison to the rest of these, so I'm not holding that against Rob. Lastly, as for Tai Keo, he is the only one of these 4 actors to have a Wikipedia page, so his filmography is more diverse, but the only thing that I think most people might have heard of is Dominion, which is related to the Legion series, but in terms of his physical appearance, I think he can definitely play this Dalton character, definitely has the right build and facial expressions, so overall, I think all of these castings are pretty good W's. I got trolled so hard yesterday, I thought that there was actually going to be an event that was dedicated to announcing a whole bunch of superhero projects, as I heard about that yesterday, and I was questioning, like, well, what's this event? Because they usually announce superhero shit at, like, SDCC or D23, right? But the event was actually referring to a fictional The Boys event, where they announce a whole bunch of fake shows, MCU style, in a slate. So these are essentially shows that are being made in the Boys universe, essentially. So to compare to something from the MCU, it's like those Teen Thor shorts. They were in-universe videos made by Thor and people in the universe. Judging by the titles of some of these, I think it would be cool to actually see them in the show as these fake shows. Especially during the hiatuses between seasons, just release these as little fun shorts to keep the audience occupied. And you don't even have to worry about canon either, you can just go as absolutely wild as you want. Next up, Rockstar has addressed why they didn't want to make GTA or Red Dead Redemption movies, with the main reasons being that they didn't have creative control and they didn't want to risk the safety of the IPs, as most video game adaptations at the time were doing badly. I fully understand the creative control reason, as it definitely would have made a GTA movie worse if Rockstar wasn't involved to the extent that they should be, because I mean, it's Rockstar that makes the game as inappropriate as they are. Who knows, if it got handed off to another studio, they could make it fucking PG. Just imagine how much backlash a PG GTA would get. The comment on it being a risk to the GTA IP itself, though, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, as, for one, GTA, I think would be easy to adapt into a show, especially if you just basically told another story in the universe. Which, to be fair, wasn't very common. At that time, most video game adaptations were, like, strictly adaptations, and that's what they were basing this off of at the time, as they said. But I don't think it would put the IP in danger. I mean, look at how many bad adaptations we've had, namely the Halo series. That didn't kill Halo. If anything, Halo Infinite has been killing it. So it shows that no matter how bad an adaptation is, it's not going to take away from the original material or any of the games. Okay, maybe the PG GTA project would. Overall, though, I am glad that we didn't get a GTA show or movie. If the creators didn't want to do it, they didn't feel obligated to, or they didn't want to do it just for money, so I have to respect them for that. Multiple Assassin's Creed remakes are on the way. Now, I have a bit of a concern about this, being how many remakes are we talking about here? Now, I know Ubisoft is a big studio, and bigger than the P Studio at Atlas, who just works on the Persona games, but what immediately comes to my mind is the P Studio trying to work on remakes for Persona 1, 2, 3, and 4 all at once. Imagine if they did that. Like, you should be focusing on one project at a time. Now, it sounds like this could be the case, and they're just planning long-term. I mean, we know that the Assassin's Creed devs have very long-term plans, especially with Assassin's Creed Infinity being like a platform for all their future experiences. But I just hope they don't get too ahead of themselves and try and tackle like 25 million projects at once. The series has enough constant releases, and hopefully the backlash that Assassin's Creed Shadows has been receiving doesn't absolutely tarnish some of their budget. I mean, I'm sure the game will still sell pretty well, as a lot of the people who complain about the game are still going to buy it. Now, for our last story today, I know, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite. I said I wouldn't talk about Dr. Disrespect again, as there was nothing really that interesting to talk about, but now there is something somewhat interesting, being that Kick refuses to ban him. They're saying that a ban would be too preemptive, as if they're still waiting for more evidence on things. Like, we don't really need more evidence, guys. It's already confirmed that he's talked to a minor. If you guys are gonna ban him, I think that's more than enough reason. I mean, it is Kick. They're by far the most cancerous of any of the streaming platforms. I never thought one could outblast Twitch, but we live in a world where anything's possible, I guess. I think even Kick's people know that talking to a minor is wrong, but they're just too afraid to ban Dr. Disrespect, especially due to his current controversy now, as look at how much traction it's getting. It'll just lead to Kick getting more traction if people were to tune into his streams. One more thing. I've been watching The Acolyte, and I somehow did not pick this up, probably because I was taking notes for my review, but the Sith Lord's name is Darth Teeth. What the fuck, man? See, I'm surprised this isn't getting called out. Like, people are calling out the show for the most ridiculous shit, and this is the most ridiculous thing I've seen. Darth Teeth, really? You can't even see his teeth while he's wearing his mask anyway, so why the fuck is Teeth his name?